Hi everyone, I am here with Damian Kimmelman. He's founder of Doodle and Mattel, and he's co-founder of Row and Founders Pledge. Damian, why don't you start by telling us a little bit about your background and what you're working on now?
My background, I've taken a bit of a career pivot in the last 4 months. My background originally was in fintech. I started a company called Doodle, which powers a lot of fintechs and financial services businesses in terms of their onboarding processes for understanding counterparty risk. So, especially in retail bank sort of situations. I also co-founded a nonprofit called Founders Pledge. Founders Pledge, sort of does the due diligence on, a lot of nonprofits. The way that we like to explain it is we educate founders on how to give more effectively to charity. We've raised about $2.5 billion of pledges and fulfilled about 450 million of those pledges into actual donations to charities. And then my other business that I co-founded was a business bank called Row, which is a very, very early stage business bank based out of New York. My most recent venture is called Mattel, and we are a remote sleep school for children. We teach parents how to put their kids to bed in under 5 minutes within a week, guaranteed. It is doing very, very well, as you might understand, because everybody feels the pain a lot more. And funnily enough, I've never had less sleep in my life, so it's kind of ironic. But I'm absolutely loving that. It's quite a departure from sort of my fintech background, but it's a very exciting problem to solve. We are cash flow break even this month, and we're going to probably double our spend over the next month. So that's a fleeting point of success, but it's pretty cool. It's a 3-month-old company, and to be in that situation is pretty exciting.
Well, that's one that's really hard to resist diving into. How did you come up with the idea for that, and what does it actually look like from kind of a customer experience?
Certainly. So I don't have kids of my own, which is also quite a funny thing. Typically I've built businesses that were problems that I experienced myself. This business is quite a lot different. It's not my problem, it's my friends' problems. Nearly all of my friends have kids, and they are notorious, all the time sleep deprived. And I kept on asking people, what were their problems? And universally people said, I just want some sleep. And so I decided to read every single book I could on how to put babies to bed, and see if it was a hackable, solvable problem. I also had my researcher reach out to all of the sleep specialists in the New York tri-state area, and asked them to, what their thoughts were, and tried to interview them. Over the course of about 9 months, I played this mental game with myself. Should I change career or not? And so I tried to model out, the market. I tried to come up with every excuse not to do this. And it seemed too good to be true. But it's one of these problems that I think has a profound impact on society. And it's a super solvable problem. Every single one of our customers that we've had gives us a 5-star review. And it's one of these things where every single day that I go to work, I just jump out of bed and roll over to my office. But every single day, I see people on Zoom crying, and crying for joy. First, they're crying for pain, but it's very quickly turned into joy.
One question would be, what's the secret sauce? How do you build a scalable business that enables kids to get to sleep? Is it technology? And what does that look like?
So what I realized was that it was a combination of a number of elements. Deep-rooted is a philosophy, right? And philosophies are actually super scalable. Then there's a bunch of technology. So it's to explain, I think you asked what's the process for our customers. It's a 7-day journey where they have, once they commit to doing this, they get a package in the mail with a bunch of tools, depending on the age of their child. We service kids from 4 months old to about 4 years old. And there's a bunch of technology that we send. There's an app with a significant amount of content, video and audio and written content that they can access, similar to a master class. And it's followed up with one-to-one Zoom calls and cohort Zoom calls where 4 customers at a time, so 4 parents from different families come together and have a chat and act as accountability buddies.
What do you think is the reason that you were drawn to do that? What convinced you, okay, I want to do this? You took 6 months and you looked at it, and it was a completely insane looking departure from your career and your network and everything. What made you want to do that?
I really like fragmented industries. I like non-obvious, capital intensive opportunities. I think that they're very suited for, I thought that the market was just a bit, hot. I thought that, venture capitalists really enjoyed the obvious capital intensive sort of quadrant of opportunities. And I, self-funding this and, trying to, build a really successful cash flow business that could scale dramatically. I was looking at the capital intensive, non-obvious quadrant. And so that was one of the key opportunities that I saw. The other is this is a huge pain point for a very, very affluent part of the market that has a tremendous amount of buying power. On a more personal level, I can see this problem affecting so many of my friends' marriages. I think one of the reasons why I haven't had kids is because I'm very happily married, And I could see this as being a huge problem. And third, I wanted to build a business that wasn't my problem. I think all too often we have this notion that you have to solve your own problems. And there's a tremendous lack of empathy in that sort of thesis. And sometimes when you're in the sort of in the middle of a tornado, it's very hard to see. And this is a tornado. If you speak to these parents, a lot of the parents that we work with, totally broken.
I want to talk a little bit about the Founders Pledge and how that works. So can you talk a little bit about sort of what it actually does, right? You got $2.5 billion. You're analyzing different NGOs and charities. What does that process look like? What's the staffing like? What kind of data do you compile? How does the actual donation happen? Just talk a little bit about the details of how Founders Pledge works.
Certainly. Founders Pledge is one of the most exciting, if not the most exciting thing that I do on a day-to-day basis. It certainly has been for the last few years. So in order to understand Founders Pledge, I think you have to back up a little bit and understand the purpose of Founders Pledge. I think there is a notion in sort of the tech world, or a lot of educated people in tech are actually I believe that the charity model is broken, and as a result, think that there should be a business to fix every problem, or that government should solve that problem. And in many ways, that's a pretty sensible assessment. But there's certain problems that can't be solved by governments, or not being solved by governments, and have no business model. Human rights is a classic, sort of example of that, and shouldn't have a business model, right? Because that can create unnecessary influence on some of those issues. Access to clean water, but on more sort of existential threats, for instance, look, we're dealing with one now, right? Pandemics, classic example. It was dramatically underfunded by governments. All of these high risk, possibly low probability, high impact, things. Asteroid detection, not a great business model. Governments are really not doing anything of it. Ethics of robotics, ethics of artificial intelligence, all like super, fascinating, exciting, existential problems that are significantly underfunded, and pose, quite existential threats to humanity. And those are the kinds of problems that we like to address, and like to educate founders on how to give more effectively to places where they could have outsized impacts on issues of their choice. We have a 100% model where we raise our operational budget separately from the donations. So all of our advice is free. All of the support and the infrastructure and the tax efficient services are free. So it's a pretty easy decision, and it should be an obvious decision for any founder to do. Look, I might be paper rich, but cash poor. So I should, give a pledge of a certain amount of my equity, and on a liquidity event, that equity is turned into cash and put into a DAF, a donor advised fund. And so that's how it works. On a liquidity event, money is either put into a DAF or is allocated to certain charities, of which you have control.
Is there some kind of a resource center, or is everything just sort of done custom, or what does it look like in terms of, say I'm interested in AI and ethics around technology, and that's my focus. What does the engagement look like in my research process like you look like?
So we have, I would argue, one of the best research teams, nonprofit research teams that research the efficacy of different cause areas. And you're more than welcome, if you're a pledger, to interact with them on a completely free basis. We also put together reports, such as our report on climate change, which you can download on our website, and it is pretty, substantial, and it shows, why you should give to certain charities if you are interested in climate change.